The Vengeful Luna. Previous episodes are available on the playlist. You can also visit our website for your favorite stories. A link is provided in the video description. Episode 3. Kyson. Azalea's voice, persistent and scared, finally ceases as she succumbs to exhaustion in my arms. Her breath slow to a gentle rhythm beside me, and I feel the tension in my own body ebb, replaced by a silent vow she won't be stepping foot outside these walls without me again. However, the abrupt intrusion of Ganon's voice slices through the quiet of the room, jerking me to full alertness. "We finally found his files," he says, the words clear as crystal in my mind. "Good," I respond softly, cautious not to disturb Azalea's slumber. Carefully, I extract my arm from underneath her, wincing at even the slightest shift that might wake her. Her face is serene at rest, making a stark contrast with the storm of questions that had raged from her lips just hours before. I watch her for a moment longer, the rise and fall of her chest a reassuring sight as it hits me how close we came to losing her today. With deliberate movements, I slide out of bed and pad silently across the room. "You and Dustin can meet me at my office and wake up Damien. Tell him to meet me there too," I instruct Ganon, my thoughts already racing ahead. Ganon and Dustin have been buried in musty texts and decrepit records for hours now, searching for any shred of information on Trey that might help us understand the mess we're in. The fact that they've unearthed something, anything, sparks an urgency in me that refuses to wait until morning. I pull the door open with a soft click, finding Liam and Trey stationed outside. Liam's eyes flick to me, sharp and assessing, while Trey's stance remains firm, a living barrier between us and the unknown threats that lurk beyond these castle confines, making me question where all the unease came from surrounding him and my men. "Trey, you're coming with me," I command, my voice low but laced with an authority that doesn't leave room for argument. He peels away from the stone wall, every bit the disciplined guard he's trained to be. Liam gives a silent nod, stepping closer to the bedroom door. Descending the staircase, the cool draft is like fingers of ice skirting across my skin, and I suppress a shiver. But it's not the chill that unsettles me, it's whatever I'm about to find out next. Reaching the bottom, the familiar path to my office stretches out before us, the torches flickering along the walls casting elongated shadows that flicker on the stone floor. My footsteps echo, steady and purposeful, while Trey's fall silently behind me. The door to my office ahead, the dark wood stark against the cold grey of the stone. Pushing it open, I step inside where the scent of leather and parchment fills my senses. Motioning to the chair across from my desk, I take my seat. Trey slumps into the chair with a casual grace, his arms crossing over his chest as he stifles a yawn. He doesn't squirm or glance around nervously, instead, he sits there with an air of resignation, as if he's already accepted whatever judgment I might pass. His eyes, hooded with fatigue or perhaps indifference, remain fixed on mine, steady and unflinching. I waste no time in questioning him. "What did you mean earlier about her blood being in your system?" I ask, leaning forward slightly. The memory of his earlier words itches at my mind, and has all night. His claim had sounded absurd, impossible even, yet here he sits before me with an explanation seemingly at the ready, and I cannot ignore the genuineness that flickers in his gaze. "I am sired to the Landina bloodline," he states. "Excuse me." The words claw their way out of my throat, rough and edged with disbelief. Sired? As in the irreversible bond formed when one is turned? I push back from the desk, muscles coiled tight as I rise to my feet. Instinct roars within me, a primal warning that he is a threat to my mate bond. My growl rumbles deep in my chest, a sound that fills the room with its threat. No one, absolutely no one, would claim any part of Azalea without facing my wrath. The very notion that someone could stake a claim on her, share in what is solely mine by right of our mate bond, ignites a fury that burns hot and unforgiving. I tower over him now, ready to defend what is most precious to me. Wait, not in that way. Trey's words rush out like a dam breaking, his hands raised in a placating gesture. The moonlight streaming through the window glints off his anxious eyes as he tries to stem the tide of my fury. I was born Leakin. King Garrett didn't turn me. Landina blood is different. My growl subsides into a low hum of confusion. I hover over him, still a menacing presence, but curiosity now threads through the anger. Yes, King Garrett sired me, Trey continues, urgency underpinning his tone, but it works similar to an oath. I am loyal to not just King Garrett but the entire Landina bloodline. Wait, how could you be sired to the entire bloodline? The question slips from me. My stance softens fractionally as I process his words. A bond to a lineage, not merely an individual. This is unheard of, yet his conviction rings with an undeniable truth. Trey's eyes lock onto mine, and I cannot ignore the earnestness that flickers in his gaze, and I retake my seat. I drum my fingers on the cold surface of my desk, my eyes narrowing as I take in Trey. The tension hangs heavy in the room, a palpable force that seems to press against the ancient walls of the castle. Landina blood is special, you already know this, he says, his voice a mixture of frustration and exhaustion. My thoughts mull over his statement. Landina blood revered, potent, the stuff of legends. I've seen its effects, the reverence it commands among our kind. Yet here stands Trey, his allegiance bound to it in ways that defy the norm. But you can only be sired to one person, not an entire bloodline, I retort, my skepticism obvious. The concept feels alien, like trying to grasp smoke with bare hands. Loyalty to one is tangible, measurable. But to a bloodline? Who would agree to that? How could someone blindly agree to that, not knowing if the next king or queen will be a good one? Trey holds my gaze, unflinching, as if his very soul lays bare upon my scrutiny. Wrong. Trey's voice slices through my doubt, sharp and certain. Same as if I have children, they are automatically sired to the Landinas as well, he continues, his arms unfolding as he leans into the explanation, a hint of desperation lacing his words. I study him, trying to piece together this puzzle that doesn't fit into any frame I've known. The notion of blood ties extending beyond direct siring is uncharted territory beside pact oaths, which are marginally different, yet the conviction in Trey's eyes is unmistakable. That bear ripped me to pieces, I was carrying her, she was also bleeding. His voice grows more fervent. I only needed a drop of her blood to awaken the sire bond completely, though I could feel my sire awakening already. The stronger she gets, it does, and eventually it will awaken any gifts she may have inherited from her parents. He presses on, urgency threading through his tone. That is why I have been pestering for shifts as her guard. I lean back in my chair, the leather creaking under my shifting weight. My mind races, grappling with the intricacies of Landino lineage that now seem to expand before me like a complex puzzle. I can't shake off the feeling that there's more to Trey's story than mere loyalty. You wanted to awaken an old sire bond. The question escapes my lips, and almost sounds accusing, yet what I am accusing him of I am no longer sure. Trey meets my gaze squarely, the weight of years etched into the lines of his face. His chest rises and falls with a tremor that belies his usual calm. It's more than that, he begins. His eyes are distant, lost in a sea of memory. The sire doesn't just make us loyal, it makes us feel pained when we're not near our sired. Years, I felt my sire pulling. I never believed she was dead, not until years later when I could no longer feel the tugging of my sire blood thrumming in my veins. He pauses, the silence heavy with the weight of his confession. Then, he continues, voice barely above a whisper, when her blood touched me while I was carrying her, it must have got in my system because I could feel my sire like an extra limb, an attachment. The stronger she gets, the stronger my sire bond gets. I open my mouth to question the implications, but the click of the door announces new presences. Damien strides in first, his posture rigid with purpose, followed by Dustin's frame shadowed by Ganon's large silhouette. Kyson, Ganon nods and extends a folder worn at the edges with use. I take it. My fingers flip through the contents, images, and texts blurring together until one name leaps out, snaring my attention. What's your link with Marissa Talbot? The question is sharp, cutting through the air with the precision of a blade. Trey's jaw tightens, the muscles working as he grapples with the question. The room holds its breath, the silence stretching taut between us. She was Azalea's nanny, he states. I tried to warn the Queen about her. Ganon's laugh is short and devoid of humor, it reverberates against the stone walls, a precursor to the storm brewing in his narrowed eyes. With a swift motion, he flings an aged diary onto my desk. It lands with a thud, which disrupts the balanced silence of the room. He bellows, his eyes full of anger. Trey reacts instantly, snatching the diary up with hands that betray no tremor. His fingers skim over the worn pages, eyes darting back and forth as he searches for something, anything that could substantiate his claim. Pages riffle under Trey's fingers, but I can see the tension coiling in his shoulders. It's a diary, he asserts, a note of defiance creeping into his voice as he looks up from Queen Tatiana's scrawled words. Ganon leans forward, his presence like a boulder in the cramped space of my office. Queen Tatiana's diary, he snarls with a sneer that could curdle blood, not once does it mention you. Of course it doesn't. Trey's retort is a snarl to match Ganon's, and he flicks through the pages with a force that threatens to tear the delicate paper. You think she would leave information about Azalea's guards for anyone to get their hands on? The question hangs between us, pointed and heavy. It's a valid argument, any queen worth her crown would guard her secrets fiercely, especially when it came to the safety of her child. But I also understand her need to document everything in a diary. It makes me wonder if she kept notes for Azalea one day, yet she also left out crucial information that could have been used to help find her had I known. Trey's finger stabs at a passage, his nail circling an entry. See, a guard reported Marissa and that guard was me, he declares, thrusting the book towards me. I reach out and take the diary. My eyes dart over the handwritten words, tracing the lines of ink that weave through the page. She didn't believe you. I probe, incredulity lacing my tone as I look up from the text. The thought that someone could dismiss a guard's caution, particularly regarding a threat to her child, shocks me. Trey's gaze shifts to the cold stone floor, the muscles in his jaw clenching tight. No, she did, it was Garrett that refused to listen, he murmurs, almost too low for me to catch. The words hang between us, a confession that Queen Tatiana had, in fact, heeded his warning, yet an undercurrent of something unsaid flows beneath them. I lean forward. And why would he do that? Trey swallows hard, a man battling with memories that are clearly etched into his soul. His eyes, when they finally meet mine, are hardened and angry. Maybe because she was King Garrett's mistress, Trey admits. I reel back as if struck, the revelation sending a shockwave through me. My gaze snaps to Gannon, who stands rigid, his face a mask of disbelief. Impossible, Tatiana Gannon's begins. With a swift motion, Trey raises his hand, asking for him to wait. His eyes lock onto mine, pleading to let him explain. She knew he was having affairs, she always knew. Yet she wanted to save her marriage and, he trails off for a second, becoming nervous. She knew. I ask, shocked by this news. What queen would allow that? Trey's voice breaks the silence, rough with emotion. Of course, she knew, but where would she have gone with hunters killing off royal families, with the only other Leakin community being yours and with a baby that would be heir to both the Landine and Azure name? His eyes are wide, imploring me to understand the desperation of a cornered queen, a mother protecting her pup. I can't help but feel a pang of sympathy for Tatiana, imagining her plight, trapped between love for her daughter and duty to a marriage she never wanted. Trey sighs heavily and rubs his temples. The night of the attack then, where were you? The command rolls off my tongue. It's not a question but an order for the truth, and Trey knows it. He meets my gaze, his own eyes shimmering with the threat of tears. With my brother. It was my night off. His voice falters, a single tear slipping down his face. By the time we both got back to the castle, Azalea was gone. Tatiana was dead, and King Garrett was barely alive. We tried to save him, but, Trey's voice trails off, his body rigid with the memory. Then, with a sudden motion, he opens his shirt. There, on his chest, are 3 bullet holes. I lean forward, my breath catching at the sight of the scars. Trey's chest rises and falls with shallow breaths. The hunters shot my brother in the head, he finally manages, the words hollow, as if spoken from a grave. Gannon stands motionless, the muscle in his jaw working silently as he listens. The skin around the wounds is tight, pulled into pale circles that mark Trey's brush with death. He glances down at his chest. A few millimeters closer, and I would have died, he murmurs, his voice steady, too steady. He touches the scar closest to his heart, a haunted look in his eyes. This one collapsed my lung. His finger moves up slightly. Another here, lodged in my sternum. Then his hand hovers over where his heart beats beneath the flesh, a tremor betraying his stoic facade. And this one, he says, his voice barely above a whisper, only burned me when the bullet lodged into my Landina crest pendant. Damien shifts beside me, clearing his throat. He leans forward, resting his elbows on the desk, the weight of his gaze heavy on Trey. What happened afterward? His voice rumbles. Trey straightens, the fabric of his shirt settling back over the scars, hiding them once again from view. After the Landina was taken down? Trey asks, and Damien nods. I was beside myself with grief when Liam found me. I told him about Azalea. We searched the castle, and he left while we searched the river edge and the forest. Trey explains. We came across some hunters. When I was shot, adrenaline kept me alive long enough to get back to Landina when your men arrived. Then what? Damien asks. With a nod, Trey acknowledges Damien's question. The room feels smaller somehow, the walls closing in with the weight of his words as he continues. Spent 3 months in your hospital with silver poisoning, he says, eyes locked on mine, compelling me to verify his claim later. Check your records. I make a mental note to do just that, but there's something about the way he says it, no hesitation, no falter in his voice, that makes me believe him without seeing the proof. Then, when I was released, Trey goes on, I went hunting with a few other Landina warriors. His gaze drifts past me, focusing on something distant and unseen. We went looking for Azalea, we even thought we found her at one stage. But by the time we got to the camp by the river, it was empty. He presses his lips in a line. We picked up Jordan's scent by accident. Trey's hand absently moves to the Landina pendant hidden beneath his shirt that was now a necklace, the crest that both marked him and saved him. By the time we got there was no sign of them. That was years ago, he finishes, his voice a soft echo of defeat. 9 years ago. The words taste like ash in my mouth as I voice the unspoken timeline we've all danced around. Trey nods, his gaze holding a distant sorrow, a mirror to my own heartache. Yes, I got here just before your sister died. His fingers fidget with the hem of his shirt, a restless energy that speaks of unease and regret. After Clay, she died, we gave up, he admits, and there's a tremor in his voice that doesn't escape me. A man haunted by his failures. Figured I would come to the trials and failed miserably for 3 years. Trey's eyes don't meet mine, they're fixed on Dustin. His jaw clenches tight, the muscle ticking with tension. I didn't want the last royal family to die. There's defiance now in his voice. Tatiana wouldn't have wanted that, he finishes, and the weight of his loyalty to a queen long gone, to a lineage teetering on the brink, settles heavily in the room. I narrow my eyes at him, pressing for an answer that makes sense. And you didn't recognize Marissa when she was here, not even notice her scent around here? Trey shakes his head, the lines of frustration etching deeper into his face. No, Marissa never had a scent, so I wouldn't have recognized her by scent anyway. He pauses, as if the next words are heavy on his tongue. Tatiana and Garrett were paranoid about security. She used to make everyone in the castle use a day scentator, so our scents couldn't be tracked, he explains. I lean forward, resting my elbows on the cold, hard surface of the desk, the weight of centuries-old wood bearing witness to the tension in the room. Not even by sight? I ask, my voice laced with incredulity. I wasn't here when she was here, he replies, a hint of defensiveness creeping into his tone. He shifts uncomfortably in his chair before continuing. I failed the trials 3 years in a row. I worked at the mill in town before I made your guard, she was already gone by then. The creak of parchment echoes softly as I sift through the stack of documents cluttering my desk, searching for corroborating evidence. Trey watches me, his gaze never flinching as if daring me to challenge his words. The year you accused me of tampering with your trial was the year I was officially made a guard. The simplicity of his statement hangs between us, unadorned and raw. I hardly entered the castle grounds except to drop wood off, he adds. My fingers find the edge of a particular sheet, and I pull it closer, scanning the neat script that lists appointments and duties. Trey's name stands out. He was appointed guard 2 years after my sister's death, just as he said. It clicks into place after her death. I had created the blood oath for my men and selected staff. Your story checks out, I concede, my mind reeling from the implications. The pieces of the past settle into a new pattern, one where Trey's presence now makes a twisted kind of sense. His unwavering gaze tells me he knows it, too, that the truth has always been in his favor when Dustin speaks. Then why were you a jerk to her in the stables? Dustin asks. Dustin's question hangs in the air like a blade poised to strike, and Trey's jaw tightens visibly. For a moment, he simply stares at Dustin, his eyes dark pools of old pain and regret. Then he leans forward, gripping the edge of the desk. I told you, he starts, his voice rough, carrying the weight of years marred by a guilt that has never left him. I thought she was Marissa Talbot's daughter. He pauses, swallows hard, and when he continues, there's a fierceness in his tone that wasn't there before. Do you have any idea of the guilt I have lived with for not being there that night? Azalea was my charge, and I left, and she vanished by the time I got back. The words are like a confession, a plea for understanding from someone who has been living in the shadow of a single, haunting failure. Trey's breath hitches, and he looks up, his eyes meeting mine with a raw honesty that is almost painful to witness. I would never hurt her, he says, and there's no mistaking the sincerity in his voice. I just need to be around her now, Trey says, and his voice breaks slightly, revealing the cracks in his composure. That is why I have been so desperate to stay on as her guard. His admission lingers in the air, and I feel something shift like a lock clicking into place that allows me to see the full picture of Trey's allegiance. It's no longer just about duty, it's personal and fiercely protective. And as much as I hate to admit it, I understand that desperation because I feel it too every time I look at Azalea. Azalea, my eyes flutter open, and I'm met with a cold absence on the other side of the bed. Kyson is gone. A low growl vibrates in my throat, frustration simmering through me like a brewing storm. Of course, he would leave before dawn, evading the barrage of questions he knows all too well are perched on the tip of my tongue. I throw the blanket back with a huff, the air chill against my skin. I snatch a robe from the end of the bed and draw it around me. The fabric clings to my body, offering a scant comfort as I stride across the room. My fingers grasp the door handle, turning it with more force than necessary. I open the door to the corridor to find Liam, his feet moving in a rhythm known only to him, his voice lilting softly as he sings a tune under his breath. He twirls, a solitary dancer lost in his own performance, but halts mid-spin as our eyes lock. His dance ends abruptly as if he's just now aware of his audience. "My queen," he greets, the words rolling off his tongue. "Good morning, Liam," I respond, my tone light despite my frustration. "Do you know where the king went?" My eyes search his, seeking an answer, but also gauging whether he'll be straightforward or send me on a merry goose chase for information. Liam's eyebrows hitch upwards, his lips curving into a mischievous grin that doesn't quite reach the worry etched in the corners of his eyes. "He's with Trey," he says, almost casually, like he's commenting on the weather rather than the whereabouts of my missing husband. "Kyson's trying to untangle the mess you left with Gannon and Dustin." My heart hitches as I process his words. "Hey," escapes my lips. The command I had given in a moment of heated emotion now feels like a bomb I've inadvertently set off. "Your command," Liam clarifies, gesturing with a slight roll of his wrist. "The one where you ordered them from following or touching you." I bite the inside of my cheek, chastising myself. "Right," I mutter, more to myself than to him, a reminder that my words carry more weight than I realize. "And Kyson thinks I can just undo that." "Perhaps," Liam mumbles, his tone non-committal, but the twinkle in his eye suggests he knows more than he's letting on. "Great," I mutter, feeling the weight of my unintended consequences. "And why is Kyson talking to Trey?" "Ah, matters of loyalty and trust, no doubt," Liam replies with a coy smile. He leans against the cool stone wall, arms folded across his chest, his casual stance belying the gravity of the situation at hand. "To see if he's a traitor," he answers, catching the question in my eyes before it spills from my lips. The man who threw himself between me and death is now being doubted and is under suspicion. Liam tilts his head, studying me, his light tone belying the tension in his posture. "What's wrong, lass?" His gaze, sharp and probing, searches for cracks in my composure. I shake my head, the frustration knotting in my stomach like a storm cloud ready to burst. "Nothing," I say, but my voice betrays the turmoil inside. Kyson's evasion is weighing on me. He just doesn't answer my questions or runs from me when I have them, and now he's questioning one of my guards and hiding from me again. Liam's grin is all mischief as he leans in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Stubborn man, the king, but you just have to think. There's a time he can't run." My brows furrow at his riddle, the answer skirting just beyond my grasp. "Think about it, Azalea," he nudges gently, his eyes gleaming. But my patience is threadbare, and I'm not in the mood for games. "Your cryptic advice does wonders for my mood, Liam," I retort, my sarcasm falling flat. His eyes dance with amusement, the kind that comes from knowing secrets the rest have yet to discover. "Was that supposed to help me?" Liam's laughter rings out again, clear and untroubled, as if he's privy to a private joke between him and the universe. "I don't know, did it?" He stands there, still as a statue save for the twinkle of mischief in his gaze, watching me wrestle with the puzzle he's laid at my feet. I shake my head, unable to stifle the chuckle escaping my lips. Liam flashes me his typical, mischievous grin, as if daring me to question his methods. "You're an odd man, Liam," I laugh. "That's why I'm so much fun," he replies. "What about Abby?" The question bursts from me, concern threading through the irritation in my voice as soon as I mention her name. She's been too quiet, too absent, and it doesn't sit right with me. Liam straightens up, the smile never quite reaching his eyes as he responds. She's with Clarice, he says, and the next part comes out almost reluctantly, though I know the Ling wanted you to wait here until he returned. He watches me closely, gauging my reaction. My eyebrow arches involuntarily at his words, a silent challenge against the notion of being caged by commands, even if they come from Kyson himself. Liam's lips twitch at the sight of my defiance. Did he now? My tone is deceptively calm. And with that look, I don't think you intend to wait around for the king to return, he laughs. No, I want to find Kyson, I state, the words slicing through the thick air between us when his gaze roams over me before it flickers away. Probably be wise to put some clothes under your robe, my queen. Liam's voice is light, but I can hear him holding back from laughing. At his words, a flush crawls up my cheeks as I glance downward, realizing I'm still beneath the thin silk. I don't mind the view, my queen, but King Kyson may not approve of you sharing it, he laughs, and I snap the robe together. Right, I mutter, more to myself than to him. With a swift pivot, I return to the room, my mind racing with thoughts of Kyson. In moments, I'm slipping into a dress that clings to my form like a second skin. Once properly dressed, I stride out, Liam's presence at my back. The murmurs of feuding leaking through the door of the king's office grow louder with each step, the voices sharp and jagged, cutting through the air. Without hesitation, I push the door open. The space beyond the threshold feels charged, alive with tension. The arguing halts abruptly as if my entrance has snuffed out the flame of their conflict. Heads turn, eyes widen, and the room falls into a shocked hush. You're awake. Kyson's voice slices through the silence, a mixture of surprise and something else, an emotion I can't quite place. I nod, unwilling to offer more than necessary, and sit in his chair. Kyson's posture is rigid, and the lines of his body are taut and straining as he stands over Trey. Ganon's hands are planted firmly on Trey's shoulders, holding him in place. I catch a glint of frustration in Trey's eyes. Please, continue, I say, my voice calm but carrying an edge that dares them to challenge my right to be here. I believe I have an interest in the matters at hand. No, you need to leave, Kyson growls, and I ignore his words. Dustin's presence is a storm cloud in the corner, his body rigid against the bookshelf, arms crossed over his chest. The lines etched into his forehead speak of a raw, simmering anger, and his eyes sharp, calculating remain fixed on nothing and everything at once. Damien, on the contrary, seems to wilt before us, with dark circles under his eyes resembling bruises from to-be exhaustion. Kyson, I begin, but he cuts me off with a raised hand. You should go back to the room, he says, voice firm yet not an order. I level my gaze at Kyson, my voice steady but edged with the authority that comes with my title. If I'm going to claim it, I should be allowed to use it. Trey and Dustin are both my guards, aren't they? If you're speaking with them, I have a right to know about what, I tell him. The growl that rumbles from Kyson's throat is low and laced with frustration. Trey's shoulders shake ever so slightly, his lips pressed tight in an effort to hide a smile, while Dustin merely shifts his eyes toward Kyson, silent as stone. "Oh, she has a point," Liam remarks, the light in his eyes dancing mischievously while the king glares at me. "Wait, I thought you said I commanded Ganon and Dustin away." My confusion sharpens into irritation, and I swivel to face Liam, who leans casually against the door frame. "You did," Liam confirms with a nod, his expression serious for once. "You commanded them not to follow or touch you. You came in here. They can't touch you or follow you if you leave, which you will have to fix." Kyson tilts his head, regarding me with eyes full of something akin to concern. "I don't trust many with you as your guard, and until then, you are stuck with Liam or me permanently attached to you." Kyson shakes his head, the disapproval clear in his posture. Kyson's gaze narrows. "And you were supposed to ensure she stayed in the room," he directs at Liam. Liam tilts his head slightly, his voice laced with mock innocence. "Was I now?" he quips, "right, my king? Well, for next time then, would you rather I pin her to the bed or tie her down?" The words slip from Liam's lips with a rogue's grin playing at the edges, but they land heavily in the thick air of the room, like stones into still water. Kyson's growl rumbles through the silence, a low warning that vibrates against my skin. His eyes flicker with a fire not entirely meant for Liam but for the situation that has grown beyond his control. "Enough," Kyson snarls. "We can continue this later." Ganon's response is instinctual, protective, a growl emanating from deep within as he reluctantly loosens his grip on Trey, stepping back with a scowl etched onto his face. He folds his arms across his chest. "Continue what later?" The words tumble from my lips. They're once again keeping me in the dark. Trey straightens, his posture rigid, as if bracing against an invisible blow. His eyes, wide and earnest, seek mine. "The king thinks I'm the one who poisoned you." He pauses, swallowing hard, the Adam's apple in his throat bobbing with the effort. "I explained how it's impossible to harm you, even if I wanted to, not that I do, my queen. It's all just a huge misunderstanding." A growl, low and menacing, cuts through Trey's defense, a sound that seems to originate from the very walls of the room. Kyson's warning to be quiet is clear. I shift my gaze between Dustin and Liam, the weight of their previous accusations against Trey hanging heavy in the air. Dustin's shoulders are squared, his eyes a clear challenge as they lock with mine. With a nonchalant shrug that doesn't quite reach his storm cloud eyes, he concedes, "It appears I was wrong." His words are clipped, edged with a reluctant admission as he glares at Trey. "Really?" Liam quirks an eyebrow, skepticism lacing his tone. He leans forward slightly, arms crossed, his attention drilling into Trey. "He's suddenly off your creepometer." The question is pointed, almost mocking. I watch Liam's face harden, the cheerfulness that danced in his eyes moments before extinguished by a flicker of suspicion. "I still think there's something slimy about him," he accuses, his gaze narrowing to slits as he peers at Trey. Trey's jaw clenches, and I can see the muscle tick beneath his skin, as if wrestling with himself. His hands, which rest on the table, form into fists so tight his knuckles bleach white. "Don't shove your prejudices against me, even if they aren't intentional," he snarls back, defiance raising the pitch of his voice. "We all know why you blame me. It's because I'm the only royal guard that was originally a Landina, an outsider." I wasn't part of the Valkyrie kingdom. That's what pisses you off. Just admit it. Liam's face reddens, and his words spit out like daggers thrown with precision at Trey. You got in on a whim. You don't get to waltz on in and become part of the guard without working for it, he snaps, his finger jabbing the air toward Trey as if to pin him to his accusation. Enough. Kyson growls, his eyes sweeping across everyone. Everyone may enter the trials. He never cheated, and he was blood-tested like everyone else. Wait. What's going on? What prejudices are you talking about? I ask. Kyson's lips press into a thin line, his silence as telling as any confession. His eyes, dark pools of thought, avoid mine. Dustin moves forward, his broad shoulders set in a way that tells me he's bracing for the weight of his next words. When all the kingdoms were alive, we all used to compete. His voice is steady, but underneath, there's an edge. Landinas were known for cheating. The competitions had huge rewards. They liked remaining in control. My head tilts, puzzlement etching my features as I struggle to piece together the fragmented history that Dustin lays bare. Hey! Kyson finally breaks his silence. He rubs at the stubble on his jaw, a gesture of frustration that's become all too familiar. The king ones were separate from that of the guard ones. We competed, but not like that. The game trials were just for added effect to amp up the kingdoms, he says, his head shaking as if to dispel the memories. What would you win? I ask curiously. My question hangs in the air for a moment when Kyson's gaze locks with mine. Pure bloodlines, he starts, his voice a low rumble of distant thunder. Reign over the council for that year. The air thickens as he continues, my father Bet was Landina's first daughter. I feel my breath catch, a silent gasp that fails to break the surface. You, he adds, and it feels as though the world tilts on its axis, you were the bet between our fathers. Not that he ever won that one. However, I did. 4 years before, though, it was tradition for the kingdoms to compete. Kyson explains. Meanwhile, a low growl escapes from Liam, making me glance at him. Wait, slow down. How many royal families were there? I'm so confused right now. They would bet on bloodlines. Kyson exhales a heavy sound. He strides from behind the desk, and as he approaches, I rise instinctively from his chair, the leather still warm from his presence. Kyson lowers himself into the seat. His demeanor is noticeably calmer as he reaches for me. His hands, strong enough to kill, are tender as he guides me onto his lap, wrapping me in an embrace that feels like both shelter and captivity. Damien moves, taking a seat next to Trey, whose eyes flicker. Gannon sprawls on the couch, his posture relaxed but eyes sharp, missing nothing. Oh yes, story time. Liam declares, voice slicing through the tension with the ease of a blade through silk. His excitement is infectious enough to draw a chuckle from Dustin, whose demeanor cracks just a bit at Liam's antics. Liam nudges Gannon, forcing him to scoot over on the couch, making room for him. The movement leaves Dustin as the sole figure standing, his arms crossed over his chest when Liam speaks again. I have a knee, good sir. You may use it, Liam offers, each word dripping with mischief as his eyebrow wiggles in a gesture that's borderline scandalous. Dustin's reaction is immediate, his usual composure splintering under the weight of embarrassment. His cheeks flush a deep shade of crimson, a different contrast to the mask he usually wears. He growls, low and dangerous, a sound that might have sent anyone else scattering. But not Liam. He thrives on this, I can tell by the glint in his eyes. Will you stop with that filth talk? Get over it and stop mentioning it, Dustin hisses, voice barely controlled as he levels a glare at Liam, one that could curdle milk. Correction. I never said I was done with you. Now sit, Liam growls. His grip wraps around Dustin's wrist. With an unexpected yank, he deposits Dustin onto his lap, a move so swift it leaves no room for Dustin to fight him. A chuckle rumbles behind me, warm and deep from Kyson as we all watch Dustin struggle in Liam's lap. Stop squirming, Liam warns, and Dustin growls. Dustin's eyes flash dangerously, his jaw setting in a hard line when Gannon speaks up. I told you not to go there, and I warned you that he's clingy. Gannon's voice cuts in with a laugh. Liam's retort is instant. I'm not. His eyes flash menacingly. Dustin's chest heaves in a silent huff, his irritation palpable, yet restrained. You're so cute when angry, like a savage chihuahua, Liam chuckles as he reaches out, fingers aiming to tweak Dustin's reddening cheek. Dustin's hand shoots up to intercept Liam's, slapping it away with a swift motion. But their banter lightens the tension in the room. Azalea, so, the trials? I ask, looking around at everyone. Damien sighs, and Kyson leans forward and opens a drawer, his hand on my belly, stopping me from slipping off his lap as he moves. He pulls out a scroll and hands it to Damien, who unrolls it on the desk. I lean forward. Trey then grabs a paperweight and places it on the end to hold it out while Damien does the other side. I lean forward to see it's a map. It looks ancient, the paper yellowing around the edges. Trey points to a vast kingdom by the river, which I know has to be this one or the Landinas. There are 4 kingdoms. This one is the Valkyrie kingdom, Kyson's kingdom, Trey says, pointing to Kyson behind me. Your last name is Valkyrie? I ask, looking at Kyson over my shoulder. Yes, Kyson chuckles. Trey looks at me like I'm absurd and should have known that. She didn't even know her own kingdom. How could you expect her to know his last name? She can't read, Damien defends me. Plus, I never bothered to ask, which I probably should have, I answer, my cheeks burning. Kyson Keller Valkyrie, Valkyrie Kingdom, Kyson whispers next to my ear. He kisses my shoulder, and I nod, turning back to Trey. This is your kingdom, the Landina Kingdom, Trey says while pointing to another along the river but high in the mountains. So all the kingdoms are named after the reigning king? I ask, and Trey nods. Now, this one in the mountains. This was the Azure Kingdom. Which was your mother's original kingdom? It was also the first kingdom to fall when she married into the Landina Kingdom. About 6 months later, the kingdom was raided. Not a single person survived. The Azure Kingdom was the largest of all. Azure was my mother's maiden name. I ask, and Trey nods sadly. Your mother was one of 12 daughters and the only one that survived that bloodline, and only because she married your father, Damien explains. But how does that lead to the trials? I ask. Because your parents weren't mates. Their marriage was part of a treaty. The Landina and Azures were constantly at war, a treaty between the oldest daughter and the oldest son. Your parents brought the two Leakin packs together. They wanted to strengthen the bloodlines. Both the Azures and Landinas were said to have certain gifts, Trey says, and Kyson growls at him. She has a right to know. Trey exclaims. Not that, and not now, Kyson snarls, and Trey curses but turns back to the map. Azures owned the council. They were the founding family of it after all, but when the kingdom fell, none of the three remaining kingdoms could decide who to run it. So they made the trials, but then it turned into some sort of Olympics every year, and since it brought the kingdoms together, they ended up making it annually. When I was a teenager, your father competed. My father wanted an alliance with the Landinas. The only way to guarantee an alliance was through marriage. So when my father won, he asked for the hand of any Landina daughter they had in the future, Kyson explains. Which he refused, so Valkyrie took hold of the council for years until your father won it back. So, who were the other two kingdoms? The Cyprus kingdom, which was my mother's family kingdom, they fell a few decades after the Azure kingdom. They weren't far apart and also part of an alliance with my kingdom. Though a few survived and are within my pack now, however, none of the royals survived, Kyson tells me. And your parents had an arranged marriage, too? I ask him. Yes, it is rare for royals to find their mates. Most of us are promised before we even exist, just like you were promised to me many years before you were ever a thought in your parents' minds. And what of this kingdom? I ask, looking at a fifth one that was crossed out with what looked like charcoal. That was the Credence kingdom. They were as old as the Landina kingdom, Kyson tells me. So Landinas and Azures are the two oldest kingdoms. Yes. The Azure kingdom. The first royal was a woman, and Landina was a man. Legend says they were basically like the Adam and Eve of Leakin bloodlines. They argued for centuries over who the real Og Leakin was, hence the treaty being made. So many people were killed over such a foolish argument, Kyson says, shaking his head. So what about your kingdom? I ask him. My kingdom was the second largest. And the Credence kingdom? They weren't Leakin. They were a human kingdom. The four Leakin kingdoms took them down, or so we thought, but they rebuilt and remained in the shadows and slowly, one kingdom at a time, they started taking us out. So, what is there now? I ask. That is where the council is, Kyson tells me. So what is with the trials? Well, when Kyson's father beat yours, your parents refused to have children and refused his request. Your father competed every year after that, trying to win the council back. Then there were claims your father cheated, which he did. Once Kyson came of age he then started competing against your father, and that is when it got really out of hand because your father made a stupid bet and lost. In turn Kyson won your hand, Trey admits. How did he cheat? I ask. Your father put silver in the water fountains, making all Kyson's men sick, Damien says. And me, Valkyrie still won that year, Kyson chuckles. So you agreed to the marriage, you wanted it? I ask Kyson, and he shrugs. Yes, I wanted the marriage. But I also wanted to maintain control over the council. Once I won your hand though, your father cheated 4 years in a row, then once Cyprus fell, your family went into hiding, but even after all the kingdoms fell, I kept up with the trials for the men. Instead, they competed for a position on my personal guard. So, only 4 kingdoms and a human kingdom initially existed here. No, there were others, but they were minor players. These 4, plus the human ones, were the most powerful kingdoms in the era, but now mine is the only one left. The entire Lycan population now lives in my kingdom, including those left from Cyprus and Landina. I nod. Dustin sighs. So you thought Trey was a cheat, like my father? I ask, and Trey sits back and smiles smugly. He never cheated, Kyson says behind me. No, I won my place fair and square. Also, they are wrong in thinking I would poison my sire, Trey snarls, and my brows furrow. Sire. Like a blood oath, only stronger. When you were a baby, I was your personal guard, but there is one way to be 100% sure to clear this up, Trey says. No. Kyson snarls behind me, making me jump. You want proof that what I claim is true? That will prove my innocence, Trey growls. She is pregnant, definitely not. I won't have my unborn child or mate put at risk. Kyson spits at him. My blood is clean, I am not tainted, she can't sire me when I am already sired to her, and it will only strengthen my sire to her, not affect her, or your bond, Trey argues. Wait, what is he talking about? I ask, but Kyson shakes with rage, and Trey glares at him. Meeting dismissed, everyone out, now. Kyson orders, and they jump to their feet to leave. What? No. I growl, twisting in his arms. Enough, we can talk about it later, Kyson snarls. What are you so afraid of me finding out? I yell at him. I'm not afraid of anything, so stop causing a scene. As I said, we can talk about this later. Kyson growls. A scene? I was causing a scene. I could show him a scene if that's what he wants. Yet, you keep saying that but later never comes, does it, Kyson? I snap and try to climb off his lap, but he refuses to let go and nips at my mark in warning, which only angers me further. My claws slip out and I stab them in his thighs. Let me go. I snarl. Azalea, as I struggle to get out of his grip, Liam pauses by the door, waiting to see if I am leaving, seeing as he is the only one besides Trey that can follow me. Kyson's grip around my waist tightens, and he grips my wrist with his hand, prying my claws from his leg. Let me go, I repeat. You would have to drink his blood. Kyson snarls at me. He yanks my hand off his thigh, which is now dripping blood on the floor. Do that again, and I will put you to sleep, he snarls in warning. Drink Trey's blood. Yes, and you're not. His DNA would be in your system. So no, it isn't happening. I scrunch my face up at the thought of drinking someone's blood. I never would have agreed to that anyway. Wait. Why not just say that? You make no sense. I ponder, looking at Liam, and he shakes his head and shrugs. Because I am not smelling his scent on you, is why. and risking you bonding to him. I am marked and mated. I growl. Not that I wanted to drink Trey's blood. I believe him, he had so many chances to kill me and didn't. He also could have walked off with the bear and it would have looked like a freak accident, but he stayed instead, getting ripped apart trying to save me. You're Landina. Kyson growls. Hey. It doesn't matter. Come on, he says, tapping my leg for me to hop up. But now I want to know why the heck being Landina is so important. No, what do you mean? Kyson sighs. I twist in his lap, but he glares at the ceiling, refusing to answer when Trey steps just inside the door. His voice makes me turn to look at him. Landinas aren't tied to anyone, neither are Azures, Trey says. As soon as the words leave his mouth, Kyson roars. The growl that rips out of him sounds almost painful, his aura hitting all of us like a shock wave, which makes me feel queasy. He moves so quickly I fall off his lap onto the floor just as he reaches over and grabs Trey. He slams him against the door and Liam jumps back just as startled. Kyson! I shriek, watching Trey's face turn purple. I get to my feet and grab his arm. Let him go, I demand. Kyson's eyes are wild with rage and his nostrils flare, and hair spreads across his body as he fights the urge to shift. Trey tries to speak, his mouth opening as he tries to breathe, yet Kyson doesn't let him go. I look at Liam for help, who moves the moment I do and grips Kyson's shoulder. Damien also steps back in next to him from outside the corridor. Kyson, you don't want to kill him, he isn't lying. I know you know that an Asire bond is stronger than an oath. Think about this. Kyson's grip tightens more and Trey makes a gasping noise when Damien speaks again. You kill him and you kill her biggest protection, Damien mutters. Kyson growls, but his grip loosens and Trey gasps loudly, yet Kyson doesn't let go completely. Please. I whisper, looking at Trey, who is trying to catch his breath. Kyson shoves him, but steps back. Trey clutches his throat and hunches over. I rub his back, glaring at Kyson. Trey clutches my arms and I help him sit in the chair. He looks like he's been through the ringer, though the fingerprints around his neck are already starting to heal. What did you mean? I ask Trey. Kyson growls and glares at him. If you won't tell me, I will get answers from others, I snap at him. Landinas are not tied to anyone. They can sever a bond and live afterward, though it would kill Kyson. You would survive. That is what your mate is worried about. You could leave him and it would kill him, but not you, Trey answers, glancing nervously at Kyson. That's what you are worried about? That I would leave my own mate? I ask Kyson. Yes, because your father did. His mate was a human woman. First time a Leakan ever had a human mate. He changed her and made her Leakan. Then a treaty agreement was offered. So he rejected his mate for your mother, which in turn killed the girl and that started the war with the Credence Kingdom. The kingdoms took them out, or so we thought, Kyson answers. So you think I would do the same thing? I ask him, remembering the pain of being without him even briefly. I could only imagine the pain of a severed bond. No. Well, yes. Maybe. But also no, because it is nearly impossible to do. Plus, I have actually marked and mated you, making us destined mates. Leaken souls are tied once, marked and mated. For you to do that would not only kill me, but kill a part of you. But my father did it. I ask, and Trey nods beside me. Yes, he was also having an affair with Marissa Talbot. Unfaithfulness is nearly impossible with actual mate bonds, but arranged marriages and forced bonds, they can still do those things. It causes pain to the mate. But for some reason, when your father rejected his mate, he lived and remarked another. We believed it was a backup plan for when the moon goddess created lichens so we could procreate, Trey answers. I am horrified by the things my father did. It disgusts me to know my mother not only was forced to marry the man responsible for killing most of her family, but also forced to suffer through a forced mate bond. Yes, but you said the Azures were the first females. They were, but there would be no guarantee they would be compatible. So everyone believed that it was the creator's backup plan that the original Landina could reject his mate and take another. All 4 royal bloodlines were created at once, but Azures and Landina were the first and considered blessed, Trey answers. My eyebrows raise at his words. I think I could be told this over and still not fully understand. Comprehending this news is like trying to read a book. Then after generations and lichens breeding with humans, it created werewolves, then eventually it was generations of the bloodlines dying out, so that is also why the royals never found mates. They were deemed to be marked and mated through alliance to keep the bloodlines strong and pure, or some crap if you believe in all the goddess mumbo-jumbo, Trey continues, his voice becoming clearer, and by the time he finished, I knew his throat was healed. Okay, is the history lesson done? Kyson snaps, and Trey swallows and nods. Yet I have more questions, but with the way Kyson's aura is rippling out, I figure it would be best not to push him. Liam grabs Trey and hauls him out of the room quickly before Kyson goes on another strangling spree. Kyson wanders over to his bar area and pours himself a glass of whiskey and then another. 3 glasses later and his aura settles some even though his anger is still buzzing beneath the surface. I wait for him to speak, but he doesn't. After 30 minutes, he simply walks out of the room. I race to catch up to him, I slip my hand in his and he stops. He looks down at my hand and sighs, lifting it to his lips and giving it a kiss. I'm sorry, he whispers. I'm not leaving you, Kyson, I am just curious about who I am. What I am. You don't need to feel threatened by any of it, I tell him. He nods but doesn't say anything else, yet I know he is hiding something. When we are nearly back to the room, we run into Peter carrying a cloth and bucket of soapy water up the steps. Kyson takes the bucket from him, and Peter sighs. Since when are you on cleaning duty? Kyson asks as Peter follows us up the steps. Since Clarice asked me to clean the steps as punishment, Peter answers. What did you do? Kyson asks. I forgot to feed the horses. So Clarice said since she had to do one of my chores, I had to do one of hers, Peter says, and Kyson chuckles. Well, get scrubbing, Kyson tells him, putting the bucket on the top step. Peter groans, but tosses his cloth into the bucket and gets to work. I am going to visit your old pack today. You're coming with me, Kyson says, leaving no room for argument. He pushes the door open. Warm clothes, it is supposed to rain today. Get dressed, Kyson says, wandering off to the bathroom. Ch 23. Abby Gannon is off doing an errand for the king. He had been nagging me about Cassandra and what I wanted to do about her, but I still have no idea. I don't like the idea of having someone's life in my hands, especially when I've hardly had any control over my own. Yet, when Gannon goes off with the king, I wander around the castle. I explore the wine cellars and am getting ready to clean them when I hear a familiar voice calling out from the cells down the corridor. The wine cellar runs what appears to be the entire length of the castle, with different underground corridors leading off in different directions, and the one to my left I know goes to the dungeons. Guards stand on either side of the arched tunnel leading to them, and I glance at them. They pay her no attention while she continues screaming out for them to set her free. Finding the cobweb brush, I head back toward the stairs leading into the kitchen's huge pantry. Only once I am halfway up do I stop. Cassandra has 3 children, which has been nagging at me. As much as I want the woman dead, I don't want to punish her children for her crimes. Her husband and their father are dead, and her life is now resting in my hands. Leaning the cobweb brush against the stairs, I walk back down the steps, over to the corridor, and stop in front of the guards. "Miss Abby," one asks, and I chew my lip, glancing toward the dark dungeons. "Can I see her?" I ask, looking at the man. He has a mustache and light blue eyes that are almost white. They are that light. He glances at the other guard, who has a full beard, dark eyes, and long hair that cascades almost to his waist and is tied in 2 braids. "One of us will come with you," the other man says, and I nod. I start walking down the corridor when I hear her screaming out again, and I stop. Her voice grating in my head as memories of the same voice teased and taunted me while she would hold my head to stop me from trying to pull away from him. She is just as sick as him to do that to another woman. I hadn't realized I had stopped moving until the guard's hand falls on my shoulder. Only then do I realize I am shaking like a leaf. "I'm right here. She can't hurt you, miss. I have mind-linked Gannon," he says, and I swallow. "Maybe this was a bad idea," I murmur. "It's up to you. No one will force you to go in there, Miss Abby," he whispers. I look at the man, and his dark eyes look black under the dim lighting. I should feel embarrassed that he knows what she did to me, yet his gentle voice holds no contempt. I nod but force myself to keep going until I am stopped outside her barred cell. She sits in the cell's corner sobbing, her head in her hands and knees to her chest. Cassandra looks up, and I can tell she is about to scream out again, but her words die out when she notices me standing there. "I suppose you're here to gloat," she says, resting her head back on the brickwork. She turns her face away from me. She looks like crap, her nails all chipped, her hair a mess, her clothes wrinkled, and she has no shoes on. Turning to the guard, I hold my hands out for the keys, and he looks at me. "Abby?" he asks questionably. "Keys, please," I tell him, and he pulls them off the keychain and hands them to me. Cassandra looks at me and jumps to her feet as I put the key in, but I don't turn it. Instead, I notice the bottled water just outside the cell door and pre-packaged sandwiches. I move to the small table and grab 2 of the triangle packages and a water bottle before tucking them under my arm. My hands shake as I open the cell, and my eyes move to her when I notice the chain around her ankle that is attached to the wall. Cassandra watches me warily as I enter, closing the door behind me. This isn't the same scornful, confident, and entitled woman I knew. This woman is helpless and looks petrified of me. She knows her life is in my hands. Ganon told her that much. I take a step toward her, and she takes one back, her back hitting the wall. I hold the water bottle out to her, and she looks at me funny, tilting her head to the side. She reaches forward and grabs it like she thinks I will toss it at her. She opens the cap and starts gulping it down thirstily. When she is done, I hand her the sandwiches, which she takes, and I watch her for a second before taking a few steps back and sitting next to the cell door. She eyes me suspiciously before also sitting. Eat. You look hungry. I am not here to hurt you, Cassandra, I tell her, and her lip quivers. She seems shocked by my words. Why not? She asks, but peels the wrapper back on her sandwich and moans as she takes a bite. Because I am not you, I am not a monster, I tell her, and she stops mid-bite and looks at me. She chews slowly and swallows, picking at her sandwich with her fingers. I observe her, and she can't be much older than me. Without all the makeup staining her face, she looks very youthful, making me curious about who she really is. How old are you? I ask her. 20, she answers with a sigh. 20. I ask, knowing her oldest child was 6 years old. But Michael is 6, I tell her, and she chews slowly and nods her head. I had him 2 days before my 14th birthday, she answers, and I swallow. How different our lives have been, though that must have been tough to have a baby that young. I thought you and Cade were high school sweethearts. She laughs and shakes her head. No, that's what he tells everyone. He is 8 years older, although he doesn't look like it. I was one of his working girls, she says with a shrug. But you just said you were 14 when you had Michael. Yeah, I was also a rogue. Cade took me in when he met me at another pack, I was placed in when I was 13. He saved me. My eyebrows raise at that. Saved her? Knocking a 14-year-old up is saving her? I know it sounds bad because of the age difference, but he saved me. I was to be sold off to another alpha regardless. He bought you? I ask. Yes, and I worked at his brothel for a couple of weeks. That is not saving you, I tell her, and she looks down at her hands. I know, but it's better than who Alpha Dean would sell me to, she says. Pardon, did you say Alpha Dean? She nods. Yeah, my family was picked up outside his borders. He said I was old enough to be sold off, and he needed the money. He killed my parents right in front of me and handed me over to his son, she says with a growl and shakes her head. A lone tear slips down her cheek. Then what happened? His son was done with me, and Cade was visiting. He offered me to Cade, but then Cade said he would buy me off him under the table, that no one had to know. They have been dealing in sales of the flesh ever since. You mean trafficking? I ask, and she swallows. I know what I did, but, she stops. When he brought me back, you figured I would replace you, I tell her. I didn't want to go back to work, and I have children now. What would become of them, she asks before stopping, hearing footsteps coming down the corridor. She glances behind me and gets to her feet, and I hear a thunderous growl echo off the walls and I stand quickly. Ganon steps up next to the guard. "Why is she in there with her?" he demands, and the man steps away from him. "I'm fine, Ganon," I tell him, and he looks at me, tearing his eyes from the guard. He sighs and twists the key in the lock, and opens it. Cassandra whimpers and presses into the corner further. I put my hand on his chest when he moves toward her. "Back off," I tell him, and he looks at me. "You're not touching her," I tell him. "She helped him." "How can you say that?" Ganon snaps at me. "And she will have to live with what she did. She is a monster, but even monsters have a story. Even monsters can feel, but I am not a monster, and I won't be responsible for her children being orphaned," I tell him as my eyes move in her direction. "She is just as much a victim as I am," I say, tears burning my eyes. Ganon growls. "No," he snarls. "It's my choice." "You said it's my choice," I whisper, and he looks at me. "She needs to be punished for what she did. She doesn't deserve to live after that," he snarls, stepping toward her, and she whimpers, cowering away from him, and I grip his shirt in my fist, making him stop. My choice, what she did was wrong, but I look at Cassandra. Fear makes people do foolish things. That is something I do understand, I tell him. "No, I am not letting her go," Ganon says, shaking his head. "You said I got to choose what happened to her, so mind link the king." "Abby." "No, Ganon, either you get the king, or I go see Azalea. I won't allow you to kill her. She has kids, and I am not leaving them orphaned to suffer the same fate I did," I tell him, and he snarls angrily. Ganon walks out of the cell, slamming the door. Cassandra whimpers before she collapses, her body shaking as she sobs. Thank you," she cries. "Go home to your children and forget about me, Cassandra. I was never a threat to you, but if you come back, I will let him skin you alive like he wants to do, and I will hand him the tools while he does it," I tell her. She nods, glancing at him, and her face pales. "Don't ruin your second chance." "I won't give you a third," I tell her, walking out of the cell. Ganon growls and looks away from me, and I stop beside him and place my hand on his chest. "Don't be mad," I tell him. "I'm not mad at you." "Yes, you are, but that's okay. I don't expect you to understand my request," I tell him, and he sighs but cups my face in hands, pulling me closer. He kisses my forehead, hugging me tight, and I wrap my arms around his waist and look up at him. "Kyson and Azalea are on their way down," Ganon whispers. "Thank you." Azalea. When Kyson gets out of the shower, he seems to be in a better mood. He wears nothing but a towel draped low on his hips while I pull my socks on. I have put on a loose-fitting off-shoulder top and jeans I only just managed to squeeze into. Yet my skin itches and burns, the fabric irritating my skin. The clothes feels constricting, and I can't stop scratching. Kyson eyes me, clearly happy to see me doing what he asked instead of arguing with him. The truth is, I am excited to leave the castle grounds. I don't care where we are going, I just want out of this place. Kyson walks into the closet before returning with some black suit pants and an undone grey button-down shirt. He tosses a jacket beside me on the bed. "It's going to rain." "Put it on," he says, pulling his belt through the belt loops. "Where are we going?" I ask him. "Well, we were going to Cade's pack, but now we are going to your old one," he says, and I look up at him, tugging down my shirt, the seam rubbing against my skin. "Why the change?" I ask. "Cassandra told Abby she was bought off Alpha Dean's son by Cade." "So?" I ask. "She was 13 when she was sold to Cade, so I want to find out what deals they had on the side. With Cade now dead, only Alpha Dean will be able to answer those questions. Cassandra is apparently helpful now Abby has decided to let her go." "What?" I ask, sitting up, my tone coming out harsher than intended. "You're not letting her go," I tell him. My skin feels tight under my clothes, and I scratch at my bump and sigh. "It is what Abby requested. We decided she could choose Cassandra's fate," he says, and I shake my head but still don't agree that she should just get off so easily. "Did Clarice change washing powder?" I mutter. My skin is now burning fiercely. "Hurry, I want to leave, and we need to stop by the dungeons on the way," Kyson says, ignoring my question. I pull my shoes on, but my feet ache the moment I pull them on. My toes feel squished, and my feet feel puffy. Kyson watches me before bending down, tugging my shoe off, and looking at my feet. He presses his thumb down on it, and my skin indents. His brows furrow. Kyson scratches his chest, raking his nails over his skin before his eyes widen, and he grips the front of my shirt and yanks me to him. He sniffs it before I am shoved back on the bed, and my clothes are shredded to pieces instantly. I shriek, wondering what he is doing, but I don't have time to ask when he scoops me up and pushes me into the shower. The rush of cold water steals my breath when he starts scrubbing my skin furiously. Yet the cold water soothes my burning skin so I don't fight him. Trey and Liam rush in moments later, and I squeal, hiding behind Kyson's body, using him as a shield. "Find out who brought the laundry up yesterday." Kyson growls, not even looking at them, solely focused on scrubbing my flesh raw. "Ah, I did," Liam answers. "Who gave it to you?" Kyson asks. "Clarice, why?" he asks, looking frantically at me. "Her clothes are washed in wolfsbane," Kyson snarls, and I gasp. Trey rushes off and returns with a handful of my clothes and sniffs them. He holds it out to Liam, who sniffs it too. "I can't smell it," Trey whispers, and Liam agrees. "It's faint, but it's wolfsbane," Kyson growls, and I look down at my reddened skin, and Kyson's hands are just as red from my scrubbing soap on my skin. My thighs and stomach are red and angry, looking swollen, and I try hard not to panic from the pain. "Get me the laundry roster," Liam snaps at Trey, who rushes off. "Liam, go to my sister's storage room and find her some clothes and ask Clarice to wash Azalea's clothes by hand, and someone needs to sit by the dryer," Kyson snarls furiously. Liam rushes off, and I shake my head, and tears burn my eyes. Why does someone keep doing this? What did I do that someone keeps trying to kill me? SHH, Azzy, it's all right. We will figure out who it is. I promise, even if I have to kick every person out of the castle until we do, Kyson murmurs, and I look down at him. Goosebumps cover my flesh as the cold water is rinsed over me. He kisses my thigh before turning me to scrub the rest of me. Kyson's fresh clothes are now ruined and sopping wet and my teeth chatter from the cold. Once done, we hop out, and Kyson goes through the drawers and rips all my clothes out, chucking them by the door and checking his own, but his clothes are fine. He pulls on new clothes when Liam knocks on the door. I tuck the towel tighter around me when he cracks the door but doesn't enter. I found some of her maternity clothes. They might be comfier, Liam tells him, handing them to Kyson. Kyson shuts the door and comes over to me. You kept her clothes? I ask, and he nods. Yes, everything was suctioned down and packed away. I couldn't bring myself to throw them out, and neither could, he says, but trails off handing me some tights. He sniffs the shirts. They smell clean. Put those on, he says, pecking my cheek. Once dressed, Kyson gives me an antihistamine to bring the reaction down. Though my skin is no longer burning, I think washing it off quickly has saved me from any permanent reaction. Come on, he says, offering me his hand. I take it, and we walk out of the room. Liam, have the cleaners come pick up the laundry and strip the linens, even the drapes. Anything fabric needs to be cleaned while I'm gone. Check every person in and out as they come into this room. And don't let anyone in by themselves. Gannon is to remain with them once we are done in the dungeons. No one in or out of my room without Gannon knowing, Kyson tells him, and Liam nods. His cheeky mood is gone, and one of Kyson's loyal soldiers is in its place. Find out who had access to her clothes, and I want every staff member questioned and have someone check the cameras, Kyson adds, and before giving Liam a list of things to organize before we leave. Kyson leads me downstairs, and we pass Trey with a notepad in his hand. Give it to Clarice to give Dustin, and you're on guard with Liam, Damien and me today. Meet us in the dungeons, Kyson tells him. Yep, I will be down soon. Clarice washed the clothes and hung them on the line. Says they were on clothesline for most of the day, Trey says, showing him. Are the outside cameras installed yet? Kyson asks while flicking through the notepad. Yes, but not hooked up on that side, but we have the far garden ones and front ones working. We should be able to see who went up that way, Trey answers. Have someone watch them while we are gone, Trey nods. Also, Clarice wants to know if you want her to pack you food and drinks. No, I will buy anything we need on the way. I don't trust anyone right now handling anything to do with Azalea. Understood. I will let her know, Trey says, rushing up the steps. We make our way to the dungeons. We had to go through the kitchens, and I can see Clarice busy going over sign-off sheet pages. My queen, I am sorry. I will figure out who had access, I promise. I will wash everything myself and sit by the dryer, Clarice says. Thank you, Clarice, I tell her, and she nods, and goes to hug me but freezes, not her too. Stepping forward, I hug her. Kyson watches her warily. In fact, he watches everyone present in the kitchen warily, and his aura is deadly, making them cringe when we pass them, heading toward the colossal pantry that is nearly as large as the kitchen. Kyson leads me to the back, where an enormous set of stairs lead underground. Kyson keeps a firm grip on my arm as we descend them because it is dark, and they are pretty steep. Once at the bottom, I look around and see this part is a vast wine cellar, filled with rows and rows of wine and spirits. Kyson leads me around like he can walk this with his eyes closed and brings me to a dark tunnel. I see Abby, who rushes toward me before freezing like she has hit a brick wall and becomes stunned. It is dark down here and cold, and I groan realizing I commanded her to. You can go to her, but when we get home, we are going to have to work on you removing the command over them, Kyson tells me. You will teach me? I ask him. I don't have a choice, he grumbles, and I get the impression he doesn't like me being able to command anyone, making me wonder if I can command him, and that is why. Repeatedly, I have heard that Landina's blood is special. They have gifts, but after the way he said it and the feeling through the bond, it makes me wonder if my command would be stronger than his. I reach for Abby, who stands frozen, so I rush to her and huge her. Abby explains about Cassandra and everything that she and Gannon found out. I wish she could come with us, but when I look over at Kyson to ask, he is in the cells with Cassandra, his entire body tense, and I can feel he wants to kill the woman but is respecting Abby's wishes. Yet he is angered because she didn't just affect Abby, but I was punished for it, and I know she won't get off so easily. You will endure the same punishment, I hear Kyson tell her. Kyson! I call out to him. After hearing about Cassandra and Kyson commanding her to double-check what she said was true and confirming it, I feel the same as Abby. It is clear Cade brainwashed her. To her, he was a hero, yet she was entirely aware of her wrongdoings and apologized countless times. She just wanted to go home to her boys, and I agreed with Abby she was as much a victim as we were in all this. Kyson looks at me. Let her go, I am fine. Enough blood has been spilled. Leave it be, I plead with him. Kyson growls and glares at her, and she backs away from him when he bends down, gripping the chain off the ground that is wrapped around her ankle. He yanks it, ripping it clean off the wall. Cassandra shrieks, and my heart beats quicker. I think he is about to whip her with the chain when he growls and drops it, instead grabbing her face. You come anywhere near my mate or Abby, or I hear even a whisper of their names coming from you, I will have my guard hunt you down and string you up, then I will make your boys watch as I kill you for it, understood? She nods and whimpers, tears rolling down her dirt-covered face. I feel his aura rush out, and she gasps like she is choking. You will come nowhere near Azalea or Abby. You will never speak or utter their names again, he says, his voice so calm it chills me to the bone. She nods, and he shoves her away before turning to the guards, and his eyes fall on Dustin. Dustin, run her back to her pack and get back here and help Gannon, Kyson orders, and Dustin steps into the cell and grabs her arm, dragging her out when Abby runs over to a small card table and snatches some sandwiches off it and bottled water before chasing after them. Dustin stops, and she hands them to Cassandra before shocking me and hugging her. Cassandra stands frozen and looks pained, probably because of Kyson's command not to come near either of us. Thank you, I hear Cassandra murmur, and Abby lets her go just as I wander back over to her. That didn't feel right, Gannon says, glaring after Cassandra. It wouldn't have been right either to punish her, Abby says to him before groaning when she tries to step closer to me. I wish you could come with me. I don't want to go back there by myself, I tell her, walking to Abby since she can't come to me. And play this tug of war. I can't move to you. Only you can come to me, that would be an issue, but it's okay. I don't think I could go back there, anyway. I never want to see that place again, Abby says and smiles sadly. I feel the same way, but Kyson would not change his mind, and much as I was not too fond of going back there, it may also be a good way to put that place behind me. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.